Okay.
Boom. Week 3. Are you excited?
Yeah.
I'm so excited. I'm like sitting here like, how is it already week 3? 3
I
weeks
know.
has just flown by for me.
I know. That's crazy. We're gonna be on like week 500 pretty soon.
Right. Okay, guys. So this episode, we are going to be talking about some super deep stuff that I haven't ever talked about on a platform before. We're going to be
Oh, me either.
talking about healing from sexual trauma, experiencing sexual trauma, and we are going to be talking about, I really want to bring up the astral projection and a little bit of our experience. I think that can definitely be a full episode though.
Yeah.
And then what else are we talking about? You remind me. You can grab your phone too if you forgot, because that's what I'm like. I'm like, we have a couple things we're going to talk about in this episode.
I like answering questions.
Yeah, we had a couple that we were going to answer.
Oh, well, I'm not sure which ones you wanted to answer, but we do have some questions that I got.
I want to answer. I'll answer whatever you want to answer. You go through and intuitively pick real quick.
All right. I want to answer how do we really trust ourselves and our knowingness? How do we take a leap?
Okay.
And I want to discuss please discuss fear or regrets.
Regrets. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't tell you about that one, but I
That's
want to talk about fear as well.
Yeah, that's really important.
Yeah, fear of the unknown. That's a big one that I want to talk about.
And it's really interesting because those all kind of go together, right? Like, how do I take a leap when I'm scared? How do I trust my knowingness? I mean, that all goes together. So let's talk about that first. Leaps that we've taken. Morgan has moved from Colorado to Las Vegas and didn't know anybody really, except a few family members.
Taking the leaps is when you are stepping into higher versions of yourself and you consciously make that decision. Okay, I'm ready to do this. The universe will provide you with exactly what you need when you need it. So when I was going through my awakening in the first year, couple years, year and a half, whatever, I energetically sent out the call to the universe saying, yo, I'm ready. Give me what you got. I'm ready.
That's what I'm doing right now, Morgan.
Yeah.
I'm like, bring it on.
Yeah, so I got the opportunity to move to Vegas, and it was scary because I didn't know what was going to happen when I did it. I didn't know if I was going to be able to make money. I didn't know. It was completely the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
And when you surrender into saying, okay, give me what you got, I'll take it. Even in that, it's like that gut intuition feeling of, I need to go do this. It's your higher self. When your higher self gives you that gut intuition pull, go do this, and you're like, no, that's scary, that's outside of my comfort zone, that doesn't feel good. No, that's your ego. That's your ego trying to keep you safe, because the ego in the third dimension is designed to keep you safe. I made a TikTok about this, so it's funny that it's coming up again.
It is. I feel it when you're talking about this. I literally feel that feeling in my solar plexus of that, like, so you guys, when you feel in your solar plexus that like, oh my God, like this feels terrifying. Did you guys know that your gut, like your stomach, is your second brain? And it actually has more, I believe it has more neurons than your brain does. There's more energy flowing through your stomach than there is through your brain, which is, yeah. And so when you feel something in your stomach and it scares you, that is a really good sign that it's something you should do, because it's literally like combating fear. Like, one of the things that we came here as star seeds to do is combat all fear, release fear completely. And you even just saying it, because with me stepping into something that's going to be very similar to that in the next few months, I feel it. I have been confronted with like, I'm going to be leaving this behind. I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be losing this, but sometimes you have to in order to gain so much more.
The
And
ego clings on to the comfortable.
it does. And I'm learning how much of my ego is like really, really attached. And it's a great opportunity to remove the attachment. But you can't know the attachment until you step out of the comfort zone and remove yourself from what you think you know and what you think is comfortable. Oops, sorry, guys. It's exciting.
It really is. But taking the leap is literally, it's saying F it and just going. It's literally saying F it and go. F it and go.
Yep. And don't worry about what could possibly happen, because the funny thing is you can sit here and plan A, B, C, X, Y, Z,
Of what's
and
going
then
to happen.
A, B, and C fall apart, and then you can't even do X, Y, and Z. So there was really no point in doing it anyways. You can never, it's so funny because it's like we can't control what's going to happen. The only thing we can control is how we react to the things that are happening.
That's where presence comes into place.
Yes.
When you
Staying
stay
present,
when you stay in the now moment, you don't know what's going to happen. You're following your higher self and your intuition, and your higher self doesn't tell you what's going to happen because that's moving yourself out of present moment.
You literally did just make a TikTok about this.
Yes.
Because I saw somebody commented on my comment and just went, whoa. And I was like, whoa.
When you move yourself out of present moment, that's when you're worrying about the future. And when you move yourself out of present moment, that's what causes the anxiety.
And if you are in a present now moment and you start to feel that like, oh my God, well, what's going to happen? Blah, 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 blah. Slow down and just go.
It's a deep surrender and a deep trust into knowing that you are always going to be protected no matter what.
No matter what happens, even perceivably things that could be bad, it doesn't mean that they are.
That's moving yourself into nothing wrong with duality, but when you move yourself into being right, wrong, good, bad, then it's going to be more hard to navigate what your higher self is actually telling you. Your higher self is going to tell you directly exactly what to do. There isn't going to be, oh, maybe this, maybe that. No, your higher self is going to be like, go do this. There isn't going to be like this, your ego being like weighing things out, right? Your higher self is like, no, this.
Yes, and it's so intense and direct. You are so right. But honestly, you guys, once you start taking those steps and listening to it, you get more comfortable with it. And then you start seeing, you start seeing why, and you start understanding, okay, I don't need to question anything.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do it.
Exactly.
And we're both in that energy. And that's why we're able to take these steps that we know, both of us know that you guys can take. If you're listening to this, you just have to find that feeling and trust it instead of fearing it. Because the feeling doesn't really shift, to be completely honest with you. Like when I think about what's coming for me in the future, that feeling 3 years ago would have felt like intense anxiety. But now that I feel it, I'm like, this is excitement. Sometimes our mind like warps those two around because we're so used to the ego creating a scenario where it's like, oh, okay, I feel this excitement, but the last time I felt excitement about something, all these things went wrong. And so what if all these things go wrong again? And you have to erase that, because honestly, the only way that you predict the future is by creating it yourself. And you do that by manifesting it. And whenever you're sitting there and you feel this excitement, and then all of a sudden your ego says, wait, but what about this? What about if that happened? Then it's created in your reality. And it's okay, but just don't dwell on it. Don't sit in those feelings. Assess them and figure out why and where the root is.
Also, the version of you who is currently doing what you wish to step into exists right now. That version of yourself is talking to you right now. That version of yourself is future you.
Yes. And that's freaking proven. Just if you don't journal, start journaling and then go back and read it, because you're going to be like, that was me channeling my higher self, because that's exactly what I would say to me back then. And it worked out. It really is a great technique for mental health and for connecting with your higher self. I think like trance channeling, genuinely.
Time isn't linear.
No.
Time isn't linear.
No, we exist in all forms now.
right now,
Yeah.
right now.
That's such an
So,
intense thing to wrap your head around, but it's so true.
so if to put it in an example, an easy one to understand, we were talking about this podcast months ago, right? So now we're the higher versions of ourselves than we were months ago, putting action into our manifestation,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the version of yourself, whatever your current self is right now, and whatever you are trying to pull into your reality, if you have realized that you create your reality, right? That version of yourself who's doing it, who's participating, who's manifested what you were thinking about before, the only reason why you thought about that in the future was because another version of yourself had that, and you pulled it out from within you.
So my guides just wanted to talk about, they don't want to talk about spiritual bypassing, but they did say to me as you were talking, they're like, don't fear spiritual bypassing. Because here's the thing, you and I have been talking about doing the podcast for a while now, but in all of those now moments, we could have started it. And so if you guys are thinking about starting something, don't think about don't think about the ABC, take the leap and just do it, because you're going to learn. Like, our flow on this in week 3 is tremendously better than it was in week 1. And you guys can go back and look and watch. I already can just tell. And the only reason that it's better is because we've done it and we're doing it. We're going to continue to do it. And that's how we continue to get better and better and attract more things. And you can't attract in a paused reality. You cannot attract anything in a
Stagnant energy. It happens when you're out of body.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But no, it's super good. So yeah, there's a lot of things going around in the community right now about spiritual bypassing and things. I don't really believe in spiritual bypassing. I think whatever you're doing in your now moment is exactly what you're supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. But in the same regard, taking action is what shifts your reality.
See.
Yeah. Do we have anything more for this part of it?
I think that's it for that part.
Yeah.
Taking the leap.
Usually it's funny because the last few weeks the topics have flown together. But honestly, this week has been so like, I'm just like open to whatever comes kind of thing, you know?
I wanted to talk about fear. So the reason what's holding people back from the stepping into the unknown is fear. And when you're afraid, it's the ego trying to keep you in the comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
So fear is a consciousness that vibrates at a very low frequency. And fear is what has been controlling humanity for thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
And we as the way showers are the ones who are seeing through the fear narrative that we have all been under. Fear is what controls you. When you're vibrating in that fear consciousness, it's like this molasses that's moving through your body and that you're trying to pull out of your body. But in order to see through the fear, you have to feel it and you have to recognize that it's not you.
Right. Because I think fear, it's funny because we were just talking about this the other day in a form. Fear pauses you. Remember how I was like, if I would have went to college and done the anesthesiologist thing, I would have been literally paused on my spiritual growth for 8 years. Or maybe even longer. I'm not even entirely sure.
It was such programming that you even wanted to do that in the first place.
Well, I remember in high school, speaking to the guidance counselor and being like, yeah, I don't really know where I want to go or what I want to do. And he's like, said something along the lines of, if you don't go to a 4-year institution, you will not be successful as an adult. And it scared the crap out of me. I was like, wait, what?
I was told that too, bro, all the time.
And it's weird because I didn't even have plans of not going, but then he said that and it put fear into my mind when I didn't even have fear. Like I was gonna go to a 4-year college and he put that fear in my mind and it made me, so I guess it was all for a purpose because he put the fear in my mind and then I started questioning things.
Yeah.
I was like, why would he say that? Why was
Mhm.
that so serious? Then one of my friends, she wanted to go to cosmetology school and they tried to talk her out of it. And she's very
They want to
successful.
be successful.
She's very successful. There's no reason
I
for
know,
them
but
to
that's
say
what they
that.
tell us.
Yep. Because it looks better for their schools too when more people go to those 4-year institutions.
Yeah, I was told by my parents, by my teachers, by everybody that if I didn't
Mhm.
go to college, that I wasn't going to be successful. I
Yep.
was just talking about that to Ciara the other day. I said if I would have stayed in college straight out of high school, or stayed in, yeah, college straight out of high school, then I would have been graduated this month. It's like anybody
Yeah, that's where it
as
came
a
up and
nurse
you would have been
or
paused. You wouldn't have had any growth.
I did go to college though, but I dropped out because I followed my intuition.
Oh my Lord.
I did drop out of school. I dropped out of school and I moved to Vegas.
I'm so sorry. My guides are okay. You guys, I'm not prepared to talk about this today, but I do want to know who would be interested in it if we talked about fear within the medical community. As somebody who worked for 6 years in the medical field, I'm just curious. And if no one's interested, we're not going to go there. But my guides are sitting here like, talk about it, talk about it. And my ego's like,
Well, if they're saying talk about it, then talk about it. Doesn't matter. People will be attracted to it.
well, I'll just say quick synopsis of it. And then if anyone's interested in like a more in depth,
Yeah.
there is so much programming within the medical field. And I say that on so many different levels. It's almost as if when I was in the medical field, even though when I started out, I was making $10 an hour, literally cutting people's toenails. And
Really?
and that was perceivably successful in the 3D. And because of being in the medical field, right? And then by the time I left as an office manager, I was making less than $20. No, I was making $20 an hour. $20 an hour, you guys. I don't even think that's $40,000 a year. That's not okay. That's not, and for the level of stress that I was going through as a human being, being in that environment, and thank God I didn't have to work in the medical field during COVID because my heart goes out to those people who, like, could you imagine how in the beginning, the fear that's so surrounded by COVID and like, what was it? And having to wear the masks. Oh, and then the last week I worked there, we couldn't get any masks because they were all sold out. So we were just like, didn't
You
know.
still work there during COVID?
The first week, literally the first week before we went into lockdown, I worked when it was all just like up in the air.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was so paranoid. Like all my coworkers were like scared. Actually, they weren't even my coworkers, they were my employees. And they were all scared and I wasn't. So it was just such duality that they were getting angry at me that I just was like, let's just take it as it comes. But it's a very, and then like, that's another thing that I was like, should we talk about it? Like vaccines, it's hard to talk about it. It's very polarizing. And one person can see a certain way and another person can see a completely different way. And in the end, both people are left offended by not agreeing. And the funny thing is that I don't know, I'm kind of coming to this point where I'm like, do what you want because it's your body, like that's where we all have to be with it, is that just because somebody doesn't want to get a vaccination and someone else thinks that everyone should doesn't mean that either person is actually right.
The whole thing about the vaccine is an opportunity for everybody to step into higher versions of themselves. Everything is an opportunity. Anything that triggers you is an opportunity for you to step into a higher version of yourself. What do I mean by that? If something is triggering you, because I've been so triggered by the vaccine, bro, so triggered. Let me tell you, so triggered. But guess what? Those triggers are opportunities. because it's obviously triggering a trauma that's within your own being, because every trigger is triggering a trauma within your own being, meaning energy that came into your body that you never felt because it was too intense to feel at the time. So when something triggers you, it's like that energy coming, triggering your, it's all frequency, it's all energy within the body.
It really is. And they keep telling me compassion too. It's learning to have compassion for
those
someone who doesn't see it
truth
the same way. Yep. Because at the end of the day, someone feeling as though I have to get the vaccine for my safety, that's their truth.
Yeah, and it's fair.
That's their truth. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
That's what they have to go through, you know? And then someone else saying, I would never put the vaccine in my body. That's their truth as well. And that's okay.
Every true is true.
Every freaking true is true. And until we all, like, we don't all have to see the same way to ascend. That's the beautiful thing. That's the confusing part about it. But we have to extend compassion for all living beings. And we're doing it. I mean, we're all doing it.
Compassion for yourself. How are you supposed to have compassion for somebody else if you don't have compassion for yourself? It starts with you. It starts with loving you first. Right. So if you, this is interesting, if you feel triggered by someone who has or has not gotten the vaccine, what you do is you ask yourself, why is what I know in my heart not enough for me to be comfortable? Right? So if you are on the side of getting the vaccine and you know that the vaccine's going to work, then say, okay, I have it. So why do I need to concern myself with someone who doesn't? And then on the flip side, someone who isn't getting the vaccine and you feel like that's a bad thing to put in your body, you know, you're not going to do it. So what does it matter if that person does? Some people are forced to.
Yes, I know. My cousin just said, she works in the medical field. She's like, I had to for my job. And I just looked to the sky and I said, thank you that I do not work in the medical field anymore. Because to me, it doesn't matter either way. What matters is that I'm making a choice for myself. Right? Like I feel like this all happened for a reason. Ooh, is that me or you?
What?
We'll let it go. I think it's me. It's an email noise, but it's okay. It's happened a couple times and I'm like,
sometimes it's me.
Okay, it's fine. But I think that us having sovereignty over our own bodies is what's important.
See, I always talk in Spanish recently. I don't know why.
I want to learn Spanish. I'm just going to tap in and learn it.
I think that's what I've been doing because I'm just like saying words in Spanish. I'm like, what?
That's amazing. But yeah, speaking,
we just went off on something.
We did, but it was important. And I think it's going to be part of the title as well, because I think it's going to pull in some important people that need to hear it. Ooh.
I have a joke about it.
About what?
About the V.
Oh yeah, I know. It's polarizing, man. It's scary to talk about. But it felt better talking about it with you.
That one. Huh?
It felt better talking about it with you. And if we get any adversity or any flashback about it, right now I'm sending every single one of you love, whether you want to get it, whether you don't want to get it, whatever. It's fine. We love you. I love you. Yes. So I want to transition into sexual trauma, because my guides were like, you need to put it out there and rise. Like, that's what they keep showing me. Put it out there and rise. And so for me, my sexual trauma or trauma, it should be just trauma from the body in general, physical abuse, all of that. It's stemmed in every single chakra. I've had a block in every single chakra. And I feel like this week I'm finally stepping into a very balanced masculine and feminine. And I know it's coming through as something that's beginning to be healed. And I'm 100% ready to talk about whatever. I mean, like whenever my guides give me an example of what I should share, they've given me two, and I told them, I was like, whichever one you bring up in the moment is the one that's meant to be talked about. But I feel like a lot of like pain in my heart right now. So it's definitely something that, okay, so they want to talk about like times when we said yes when we didn't want to. That's a massive one that freaking reoccurred for me starting at like the age of 19, I believe. Have you ever experienced that before?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, and they're telling me that it's nothing to be ashamed of. Some of you guys who are listening to this may have experienced it as well. And it's something that we have to, the way that I healed that was by recognizing that I'm never going to go through that again. Like, I will punch a dude in the balls before I allow him to touch me if I don't want him to. You know what I mean? Like, I will fight. And the thing is, like, I was at 19, I had just had Jaden, wasn't secure in my body, was very uncomfortable. And I went over to this dude's house. And I think I've told you this before, but I feel like I need to tell them to get a little more regard on the situation. And I went over to this guy's house and I was like, oh yeah, I'll get a Redbox movie and we'll just watch the movie. I literally had never even really, I'd met the guy once before, and we went over there and he starts like literally just blatantly asking me. Like, I don't even remember specifically what he was asking me. He just kept like touching me and being weird. And I was like, stop. And he kept going and I'm like, stop. And this is a trigger warning if you guys need it or whatever. I feel like when you say trigger warnings, no one actually ever stops watching the video, but if you do, let me know. I'm curious.
Triggers are opportunities, but you can
Triggers are opportunities for healing, but if you're not ready, then maybe click forward like 5 minutes. I don't think it's going to take 5 minutes, but you never know. So obviously it just kept going and I kept saying no and saying no and saying no. And what I should have done was just got up and freaking left, you know, but we can't blame our past selves for the things that happened. And so I actually, like, he was trying to do other things. And so I'm like rushing it. I'm like, let's just get it over with. Like, that's what I literally said to him at one point, because I was so wanting to be done with it. And then the next day, this dude literally texts me and he's like, you're not going to text me the next day? What are you, a slut? I was like, you sat there and literally begged me during this stupid movie that I wanted to watch for 30 minutes, and then I have to be the one to get blamed for it? Like, what in the world? Like, that's an unhealed feminine wound for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That obviously now is
body.
healed in me. But anytime that we are saying no and then doing it anyways is
it's dense energy within the body.
It's dense energy within the body that has to be released. And you have to have the confidence to know that that doesn't have to happen again for many different reasons. Like, first off, if I could go back, which I wouldn't, regrets, dude. Mm-hmm. Regrets. We'll have to talk about that next. Obviously, if I ever was in that situation for whatever reason, again, I would not meet a guy at his house the first time. So if you're one of our younger listeners, try not to do that because it's really not safe. Don't you think?
Follow your resonance.
Yeah. I mean, if it has to happen, it has to happen. But also, I wouldn't advise it.
You know, some things are just written in our Akashic record as well.
Right. They are. And that's why it did happen.
Because if you didn't go through it, how are you supposed to know?
Right. And be able to share it in order to help other people to heal it that have been through it as well. Because I think that's more why I'm sharing it. And you guys, the reason that I healed it was, or how I healed it was by giving myself that forgiveness. Because it used to be 3-4 years ago, I felt like I was all to blame for the whole situation.
Mhm.
And I had to accept that, yeah, maybe I did have a part in the situation, but at the same time, it wasn't just me. You have to forgive yourself and the other person as well.
Yeah. I have had a lot of interactions with, oh, they want me to talk about this. Okay.
I know, right? That's what I said when they talked about the other thing.
Well, so I go on a lot of walks. Like, this is recent stuff too.
Yeah, no, go ahead. That's good.
And guys and people say things to me, or they ask me to pick me up from the side of the road, or they like say very sexual, rude things that I do not appreciate whatsoever. And it happens often, a lot. And I know that this happens to a lot of girls,
Mm-hmm.
guys, whoever, theys, thems. And a year ago, I was very triggered by them. I would let it upset me. I would let it get to me. I let it happen. But then as it continued to happen, I realized that it was something that I needed to take a deeper look at. And as I continued to take a deeper look, I just realized that it was triggering traumas within me, because it has happened ever since I was a teenager, right? A young teenager.
A cycle.
Yeah, a cycle. And it would just, it would just like, it would make me literally want to go punch the dudes.
Okay, so here's a question.
What?
Does it still happen?
Yes.
Or, okay, so it still happens. So your reaction to it has changed then, right?
Yeah. Yeah, my reaction has changed because I see through what's really going on.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually I think it's just going to stop or altogether. Maybe it won't. I don't know.
Well, the thing is that it's massively, like what they're showing me is that's an unhealed masculine wound. I don't know about in you, but in them, but maybe in you as well, because everything is a mirror. So definitely in them, very blatantly, the reason they're saying that is because they have this need to feel dominant. And nobody actually finds that kind of thing attractive. You know what I mean? Like, never once. Like, I used to joke that there was this thing, and I was like, if I'm cleaning my car out, somebody's gonna start hitting on me. Like, if I'm at the gas station cleaning my car out, somebody's gonna start hitting on me. And never once was like, oh, you know what? Yeah, that guy. He seems nice. Like,
What?
you know what I'm saying? Like when they make, like they think they're gonna make these comments, and then we're just gonna be like, oh yeah, okay. Let me give you my number. No, never.
I don't think that's what they're looking for.
What do you think they're looking for? Validation?
I think dominance, bro.
Yeah, I think dominance is. I think dominance is definitely an unhealed masculine wound, and not knowing that dominance isn't the right energy to project.
I don't know. It used to make me not feel safe.
But now you feel okay because you know you're protected.
Yeah. But still sometimes I know to like make myself like get present and like see through it and stuff, but it's
Oh
it's
my Lord.
trauma. It's trauma.
It really is. Dude, oh my God, they're flooding me right now.
With what?
I feel like, okay, so the other day I was watching this girl, Zaya, I believe her name is, and she was doing a sexual healing course, which is why this is all on my mind. And I'm going to link her in the description just because I feel like I owe her a little bit of credit for even being able to talk about this. But they just like flooded me with all these different times that I have had sexual abuse. And I'm just like, I'm really healing that. Like I've really healed that. It doesn't
There's
even need to necessarily be talked about in a very specific manner. It's just that if you guys have had a lot of sexual trauma, just know that there are ways to release it from the body. Dancing for me is really, really a good one. I found, like, in the shower when no one's watching and just moving and kind of breaking up that energy. Don't you think that's kind of a good one?
I
Like,
dance a lot.
especially with the sacral chakra stuff. And then I'm trying to think, what do you think for because it's mainly based in the sacral chakra for sure.
You know, I took leaps. I didn't dive down deep into that kind of trauma, you know?
Yeah.
I just leaped over it. I saw through it massively as I woke up, right? Because as I was stepping into these extremely high frequencies, it's kind of like, F that shit, I got shit to do.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's
And
because
that's
I'm a
important.
starseed who holds a massive amount of light as well.
Right.
So other humans who hold not good or bad, but hold less light in their bodies, it's
Mhm.
harder for them to move through traumas like that.
Right. Well, but I mean, I don't want to put a label on it that it's hard. I think it's more that for some people it's necessary in order to move past it.
Yeah.
Because like for me, my guides have personally made me like astral project back into those situations as my higher self and experience
I
them.
have too.
And it's intense, but that's actually how I've healed most of them is by, because the funny thing is, if you would have asked me 7 or 8 years ago if I had any sexual trauma, I would have told you no. I would have been like, what are you talking about? Because I blacked out that heavy and that deep from the situations. And then what actually happened was in those situations, my higher self projected into my body to experience the trauma so that I could relive it. Hey, buddy, so that I could relive it later on and process that, wow, my higher self has always been protecting me. And one of those ways was through sexual trauma. Very important. If you've had that kind of situation where you realized years later that something like that happened when you didn't even know it as a child, it's because your higher self was protecting you. You had to
You
continue
weren't
moving
ready
forward.
yet.
You weren't ready for that kind of trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's coming back into your consciousness, it means you're ready to heal it.
Mm-hmm. Nothing will come up that you're not ready for.
Right. Yeah.
My guys want to talk about this for some reason.
Go ahead.
So throughout my life, I would go hang out with guys because I wanted to be friends with them, but they just wanted sexual things from me. And that was a recurring theme in my life too. Where I was like, bro, I just want to be friends, but they just wanted other things from me.
He likes to show off his booty. I'm so sorry.
You're good. And where are they going with this?
You know
Dude,
what's so interesting?
What?
Yes. No, I was going to say, I think you and I both project a more masculine energy. And Teo was talking about that earlier as well. I think my dominant energy is feminine. I think I had, and no, I don't even want to say still have. I had a lot of masculine wounds, And so I would project a masculine mask, which would make me like, I barely had any friends that were girls growing up. I didn't resonate with women at all.
I got a lot of guy friends too.
I think you're like my first actual like girl friend, if that makes sense, that I actually like tell things to. It used to just be like, if I was going through something, I wouldn't tell anybody about it.
That's how I was too.
Yeah. I would just deal with it myself.
Anyways, back to the thing I was talking about.
Yeah. Go ahead.
If you feel like the people that you're hanging out with, that you don't, something feels like you shouldn't be doing it, then stop. Don't do anything. If you're being a people pleaser, oh, that's where it went, people pleasing. If you are hanging out with people, it's trauma. It's literally you're creating the trauma for yourself when you're going to go hang out with people who you don't want to hang out with just to make them happy. And I did it so much, bro.
Dude,
so much. What?
I'm going through that right now in a different form.
Well, that's why I had to say that then.
Yeah, it is. It totally is. And mine, I think I even talked about this last week, but it's coming up massively. I overextend myself. I say I'll do something. I'll say I'll do like a million different things because I want to help everybody. And then when I sit back, I got to stop. I can't do it anymore because I don't have the energy. I don't have the time. It's not fair to anyone.
See?
Yeah, it's over. It's completely over. I think I talked about it last week. I
Things
can't.
that I don't feel like I want to do, not doing it. Set up your firm boundaries.
Yes.
Because when you're giving all your energy to everybody, you don't have the time that you need to give yourself.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what's happened to me, which I'm reversing it. I'm reversing it in a very empowered way right now. They just said, damn it. I just forgot what they just said. I'm so sorry.
I do that.
They were like, oh, okay. So they said, for you guys who are like me, which is what I'm finding, is that I am agreeing to things before I'm thinking about what I'm agreeing to.
Oh, you're just talking about that.
Yeah, like I'm like, or I'll even like extend something to someone without thinking through what I'm actually extending to them. And the thing is, you are allowed to say, hey, you know, I'm not sure how I can help you right now, but give me like a couple days and let me think about it and I'll get back to you, because that's a lot more empowered than just being like, hey, yeah, I'll give you 3 free sessions and we'll do this, that, and the other. And then my guides are like, what do you can't
also,
do that.
It's even hanging out with someone, going to a dinner with someone, going to the movies. It can be anything.
It really can. And I've had those experiences as well where I'm like,
or even if you agree to it and then the day comes and you don't feel like doing it anymore, don't feel like you are obligated to go do it.
mm-hmm. No, because you're not.
You're not obligated to do anything. It's a third dimensional programming that we have been induced with, if that's the right word.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That if you don't show up for something that you say you're going to show up for, then you're bad, you're evil, you're whatever the F they're saying, right?
That's also wounded masculine.
Yeah.
Because the masculine, the healed masculine will do what is being said. And when I'm saying masculine and feminine, I'm talking energies that we all have. I'm not talking about like a woman or a man. A healed masculine energy is going to do what they say and say what they do, but they're also not going to do something they don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that fine line and that dance of figuring it out and allowing yourself the space to not extend yourself out when you don't have the energy for it is where it comes from. And honestly, we have to also be so much more open with not being afraid to say like, hey, you know, my mental state's not well today. Like yesterday for me, like we thought we were going to do the podcast yesterday, you guys. And I went through like trials and tribulations yesterday, like heavy stuff. And I told Morgan, I was like, I can't do this today. Like, I know I will not show up, you know, and that's okay, to be honest, instead of making some weird, like in the past, I would have made some weird excuse like, hey, or I would have lied. I'm going to be straight up honest with you. There have been times in the past where like I felt so bad that I didn't want to do something with somebody that I would just make up some crazy thing that wasn't true, which creates bad karma and manifestation. But I know now I can't do that anymore. It has to be honest.
It's like almost impossible for us to be able to lie.
Yeah.
Because our bodies are vibrating at such a high frequency.
Ugh, if I were to lie, I would have to tell the truth with them. It would be very awkward too. I'd be like, hey, you know how I told you this? I was lying. It would be so embarrassing.
The higher frequency your body vibrates in, the more you're going to realize you can't do the things you used to do.
Mm-hmm.
Can't
the
do
negative things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And then when you go ahead and do them anyways, there is consequence, and it's awkward. You know what's funny is the other day, I thought about veganism or plant-based, whatever you want to call it. And how I was like, is it that I raised my vibration and then I went vegan, or was it that that raised my vibration? I do not believe that being vegan raises your vibration. I believe that you raise your vibration and then you naturally go vegan, because you feel so much energy and you know that you just can't consume it anymore.
Yeah, I can't consume any animal products anymore. It's impossible.
Dude, yesterday or 2 days ago, on those Impossible burgers that I made, I put real cheese on 2 of them because the kids wanted cheese, and the cheese was sweating.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, why is this so real? Like, I'm tearing up thinking about it right now. I'm going through massive like empath things right now for some reason, which is interesting.
It's coming up to clear.
Yeah, it totally is. And I should have just told the kids no cheese. Like, I'm their parent.
They
It
can eat what they
sucks.
want.
I know, it sucks. It's a really weird thing. It'll be nicer when I live in a more populated area where there will be vegan cheese, and it's not a 40-minute drive to get vegan cheese for my kids.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's all just experiences and energy.
They'll be
But
vegan
yeah,
soon enough, dude.
they want to. Well, Archer doesn't know. We already talked. Archer doesn't know. Jaden wants to be one. Jaden is one, basically. So yeah, regrets, dude. Do I regret giving my kids cheese the other day?
Do you?
No, I don't.
It's
to be honest.
impossible for us to even hang on to regrets right now. But I want to talk about how you let go of regrets.
Yes.
Because when you are regretting something, you are moving yourself into a past now moment. Now, when you're moving yourself into a past now moment, you're moving yourself out of present moment. You're moving yourself into something that's already happened that you don't have control over anymore. It's about acceptance. It's about accepting what happened and letting it go. Because there's no point in hanging on to something that has already happened, because that was a part of your Akashic record. You already read that. You already chose to drop down into that regret. You already chose to drop down into that situation. And when you let it go and surrender into the fact that you chose that you chose that experience, that you chose to walk through that, not easy to do, not easy to accept that. But when you let it go and just say it happened and I chose honor it, respect yourself. You're disrespecting yourself when you regret something. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. How do you move out of regret? Because what I really did was I just accepted it. I honored myself. Even if you're doing something that you regret currently, if you're in an addiction, if you're in a relationship that no longer serves you, anything that no longer serves you. Say you're eating a burger and you don't resonate with meat anymore, but you can't stop eating it, right? Is that regret? That could be regret in the now moment.
Yes.
How did you let it go?
I let it go through self acceptance and love, and pretty much all the same ways. Like, they're not like my guides, my higher self isn't giving me any other ways that I did it. It naturally fell away as I began to awaken more. And so I think that working on yourself and raising your frequency in the form of meditating, clearing your mind, healing baths worked really well for me to help bring these things up into my consciousness and allow myself to see that I can't hold regret or resentment for my past self.
You're judging yourself.
It is. It's judging a form of yourself.
It's such a low frequency.
It is.
When you judge yourself, you are vibrating on a low frequency, and it doesn't feel good.
No, not at all.
To judge yourself.
Not at all. I'm trying to think of like the last time that I judged myself. But everything kind of just shows up as mirrors now. So like, if I find myself judging someone else, then I stop and think, which hasn't happened in a while either, but if it were to, I would stop and think, whoa, wait, why did I judge that person? And 9 times out of 10, it's because it's something that I wish that I could project into myself. And so when I realized, like, because I really have never been a very judgmental person towards other people, and I've always been very hard on myself, especially with perfectionism, I realized that like it's not fair for me to be so reflective on why I'm jealous of someone else, or, you know, judging someone else, but then judging myself so hard. I just can't. That's not fair to myself. And that's really how I did it. Like, really think about it and think, how often am I thinking negative thoughts about other people? Odds are most of us are thinking rarely ever. And if they are, then I want to get past it. I want to heal it. So why think negatively about yourself? You know, you just can't.
It will
It's not
naturally
fair.
fall away. Regret will naturally fall away as your frequency rises because you're going to see the bigger picture more. You're too zoomed in.
Yes.
You're zoomed in. Zoom out. Look at the
Zoomed
bigger
into an
picture.
experience. And and think about, okay, so if you have a regret, whether it was yesterday or whether it was 4
Currently
years
in
ago,
this present moment.
think about your present moment and think about how you've changed. The regret is likely something, look at it as I learned something about myself rather than, man, I shouldn't have done that. I'm so stupid for doing that. Think, I know that I'm never going to do that again. It had to happen so I could learn. And honestly, if we're talking like very deep, you had to learn it so that you could heal it, so that you could heal your DNA, so that you didn't pass it on. And that's like a really deep topic for possibly another day, but we're all healing our DNA in order to become something more of a crystalline structure, truly. And that's why it's coming up for you, is to be healed. Yeah. Bottom line.
And it could, you know, regret, it wakes people up. It does. Dude.
I used to harbor a lot of resentment. They just showed me something. I used to harbor a lot of resentment for staying married to my ex-husband for 3 years. Like, thinking about like, why would I do that? Why, like, I wasn't happy. A lot of it, you know, even like before we got married, I didn't even want to be married to this man. And it's like, and I'm not, if he ever watches this, like, that's not offense to you. That's me not speaking my truth and not following my resonance.
So honoring yourself. You are people pleasing him.
I was people pleasing him. I did not want to hurt him because I loved him. But that doesn't change anything. So yeah, that's just, there's no regret there. It had so many reasons it had to happen, you know? But it's all beautiful. It's all divine. It's all working in your favor.
Yeah, I think that's it on regrets for now.
I think that might be it for the day, because it's getting dark out and I'm not going to have any light.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning in.
Yes, we love you. It was such an honor to be with you in this space. Bye.
Bye.
Ooh.